So you talked about the stories that the media tells, and what about the stories we tell ourselves?
There you go. Even
You know,
more important.
what about the stories we tell ourselves? And how about getting past tribalism?
Mm.
How about that?
Mm.
You know, how about moving into the meaning of the lyrics? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. What is that light? Where is that light? Who gave us that light? What does it mean to live in that light and to let that light shine everywhere I go, all through the night? I'm going to let it shine.
Mm.
What does that mean? There are some songs children need to learn to sing, and that is one of them.
Amen to that. And that's for all of us.
All the children, all the children,
All the children.
everywhere, everywhere. Because, you know, it, all you have to do is just study a little bit of physical science to know that everything in creation is connected.
Mhm.
And we are all connected, you know.
It is
I
so
want
true.
I want the children. You ask what we do. I want the children to know about this light.
Yeah.
I want you to not only know about this light, I want you to know about this light. This is what I want. It disturbs me greatly when I hear young students speaking with limited understanding of their being.
Mm.
That's all some kind of philosophical, political rant kind of thing that has nothing to do with the light.
Yeah.
And
I have to share something with you. So for those of you who can see this is the program for my mother.
yes.
And what does it say? Our bright light.
Now look at that face. Look at her eyes. Look at that. Look at the light emanating.
Emanating.
And that's
Emanating.
internal. That's real.
Oh, that was, I mean, everyone who met my mother said that
Mhm.
when she walked in the room, this
Mhm.
energy of light filled the room
Mhm.
with it
Mhm.
every single time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dream Leapers. I'm your host, Harriette Cole, and boy, do I have a wonderful guest today. We have someone who has been my friend for so many years, so I claim her, but you claim her too. She is a legendary actress, an icon of stage and screen whose talents have graced us for decades. Now, many of us were introduced to her as the poised mother and attorney Claire Huxtable from The Cosby Show, which earned her 2 Primetime Emmy Award nominations. She has spent her career shaping culture through her roles on Broadway, television, and film, both on camera and behind the scenes. Phylicia Rashad, yes, she is a Tony Award-winning performer, a visionary director, an arts educator, and a cultural leader. Phylicia comes from a family of artists, creators, entertainers, and intellects. Daughter to poet and activist Vivian Ayers Allen, and sister to dancer, actress, and choreographer Debbie Allen, Phylicia's interest in the arts started from a very young age and took root at the School of Fine Arts at our alma mater, Howard University. Phylicia Rashad was the first dean of what became known as the Chadwick A. Boseman College of Fine Arts at Howard, and she serves as a pillar in the community of aspiring actors and directors. Isn't it amazing how everything comes full circle in that way? In 2004, Phylicia made history when she won the Tony Award for Best Actress in a Play for her role in A Raisin in the Sun, a stage she shared with other icons such as LaTanya Richardson Jackson, Anika Noni Rose, and Denzel Washington. She made her directorial debut in 2007 and has been soaring ever since. Most recently, she directed what is on Broadway now, the critically acclaimed play Purpose, which garnered 6 Tony Award nominations and won the 2025 Pulitzer Prize for Drama. Phylicia Rashad has used her talents to help tell meaningful stories, and today she is here to tell us more. Please join me in welcoming Phylicia Rashad.
Thank you, Harriette.
I'm so happy to have you here today and so proud. I got to see Purpose early on in the previews, and it is such a powerful story and a very intimate into a dynamic family. And we learned that it is patterned after Jesse Jackson's family. Or so they say. Is that not true? Tell me. Not
No,
true.
the similarities that's identifiable readily, but it's not written about that family. It's not about It's not about the Jackson family.
Well, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So that has been written, so we clarified it.
I know.
But it's about a family where the patriarch is a very powerful man and flawed man, which we're all flawed in one way or another. And it's a look into this family's life, told with beautiful prose, which is why that young man won that Pulitzer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautifully written. And Phylicia, the directing, the timing, this is something that it's notable just to see, when things begin and end and how you were able to reach different crescendo moments. Can you talk about that role? You as director, this story that is nuanced, it's got a lot of words, a lot of storytelling within it to keep the audience's attention and to keep their hearts in it is the job of the director.
Oh, right. Is that true? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I was thinking about sets and lights and costumes. Okay. So, but all of that goes together, discerning the playwright's intention. That's the approach. That's the approach to the work, discerning the playwright's intention and knowing that isn't discerned in 5 minutes. That's an ongoing process. But once you kind of have a handle on it and there's some vision around it, then you got to galvanize the creative energies to move in alignment with that vision, but leave space and room for them to contribute what I did not see. So this way it becomes a great collaboration. And we can form, buy into, enter into, and hold on to a collective intention. Yeah.
How do you build that? Because that's an interesting thing, as the director, you're leading that. Being able to draw out of the actors the confidence to collaborate and the rhythm. How do you do that?
Interesting question. Well, it helps when you begin with an intelligent cast. And by that, I mean people who are certainly trained, very well trained and seasoned, but who also have multifaceted interests, who read different things and who think, it helps. It helps.
So this is good. I mean, I think what I want to know is, the behind the scenes. And so when you're working with intelligent people and you're working with scripts and this story that has many layers, and you're drawing out of the actors their spirit, their greatness that they pour into the role. Is there something you do with them to get them into this cohesive space?
I watch them. I observe them. I see what it is that that they're bringing with them. You know, I I work with that, and it's a mistake. I think it would be a mistake for me to try to impose something upon a creative mind. Actors are creative people, and we want to create together, and we want to find together. So I watch them and I learn from them. And when I see what they present me, what they present in rehearsals and working together, helps me to shape and mold a moment to see it. I can have an image, I can have an idea of how that goes, but what I see them doing enhances that. It augments it, and it helps me uh, to crystallize a language, to communicate it, because each actor has their own language. See, being a director, you have to be a bit of a linguist, you know. And how do you communicate effectively, you know, with each actor? Sometimes it means speaking to the actor individually. Sometimes, and then other times you can really do it collectively. You know, if it's a scene that involves more than two. There's no, what I'm saying is, there's no cut and dry formula for me. I'm looking at what's happening in the moment and I'm responding to that. And then at the end of the day, when you think it's over and you go home, I discover that it's not, because that whole rehearsal is playing out in my mind. And oh yeah, that, right. Oh, that, you know, and looking for the subtlest things, because ultimately the goal is to discern, to explore, to express and experience the truth of human behavior. You know, through the lens of these people,
Right.
And with what this playwright has given us, it's, you know, it's a wonderful way of working.
And it's, you know, one thing that always marvels me is 8 shows a week. Broadway is live 8 shows.
Mm-hmm.
They have to bring it live 8 times. As a director of that experience,
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about how often you are providing notes and massaging. When do you step back and just let them be? How is that dance?
Well, after opening, you know, after opening, there's not rehearsal every day. So after opening, you have to let the actors, because by the time you've opened, actors have gone through 4 to 5 weeks, maybe 6, in a rehearsal room. Okay. And then you go through a period of what are called technical rehearsals. And they can be pretty intense, or sometimes grueling. But for me, it's fun. And you make it fun, and then everybody can enjoy it. But then then comes the real intense period of what we call preview performances. Because in preview performances, you're performing in the evening and rehearsing in the day. You rehearse for maybe 4 hours, then there's a break, then you come back for your half hour, your fight call, whatever that is, and there's performance. So it's a long day. And by the time you opened, the actors, they've come through the fire. They've come through a lot.
They're like,
So
we've done it.
gotta,
Leave me alone.
you gotta back up, you gotta back up. And they're constantly finding things because they're constantly experiencing it. So you move back, and then, you know, you wander through and you might see something. But my mother taught me something she wrote in her book, Hawk, that sometimes restraint is the greatest measure of assistance.
Mm.
And sometimes I'll wait to be asked.
That is a lesson for all of us to take in and meditate on. That restraint. Ooh. We don't live in a culture that practices restraint so much these days. So
Well, maybe we can change that.
just say it again so we can really hear what was.
Sometimes, no, she didn't say sometimes. Restraint is the greatest measure of assistance.
That's beautiful. And really, everybody who is in earshot of us, take that in. Because we don't live in a culture that practices restraint right now. And people talk over each other all the time. But do not listen. The level of frustration that I reach, Phylicia, sometimes when I realize that people are just waiting for an entry point so that they can say something and not hearing what has just happened. I think it is disrespectful, but even more than that, it's a lost opportunity for connection.
So one of the things that was observed when schools came back in session after COVID, this was my observation. I was entering my the first year of my tenure as dean, my term as dean. Okay. These students, these students had been studying online.
Yes.
They'd been living in some form of isolation, not connected with each other in person, But the main thing that I saw, the great thing that I saw was this urge, this need, this insistence to be seen. Everything had to be posted.
Yes.
Every little thought had to be posted. Every little thing had to be posted. And I looked at that and I said, And I looked at some other things. I said, no, we're not going to post that. I said, you have to remember that this is your calling card. You want that card to be great. We're going to be in class and we're going to lean into the disciplines. Okay, we're going to lean into the disciplines of creating art. We're going to lean into what that means. And then we're going to find something and post that. But we're not going to post all this right away. It wasn't a popular decision.
I can't imagine.
But in the second semester, when it was arranged for students to come to New York to see a professional performance, to see a Broadway performance, and the play was Skeleton Crew, by the way. Pardon me. Ruben Santiago Hudson.
Wow.
It's one of the most creative people
yeah.
I've ever known. And his direction was brilliant. And that performance was, that entire production was electrifying. When they saw it, they looked at me and said, yes, we understand.
Boom. Let me interject. This is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking with Phylicia Rashad. She's teaching us, y'all, and we love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There's so many things, but you mentioned that quote from your mother. And we said we were going to talk about our mothers, and my mother just transitioned. I mean, days ago, we just had her service. Your beautiful mother is here. How old is she now, Phylicia?
101.
101 years old. What a gift. My grandmother, my mother's mother, lived to be 101 years old. It's so funny because my mother lived to be 95, and she was like, she knew that this was her last year, and she said at her 95th birthday, which was in October, I don't think I'm going to live as long as my mother. And we were like, that's okay. 95 is okay. You're here as long as you want to be here. But it was so funny, Phylicia, because she's like always trying to reach. We're always trying to reach to our parents and do whatever the greatness is that they did. We were like, Mom, you done fine, girl.
Uh-huh.
Tell us about your mother.
My mother poet Vivian Ayers Allen, was born in Chester, South Carolina. And Chester, South Carolina was a mill town. You know, there were mills around,
Yeah.
cotton mills around. But it was also um, the home of Brainerd Institute. Brainerd Institute was one of those schools that was established by the Presbytery in the very late 1800s, early 1900s, for the descendants of freed Africans.
Wow. Didn't know that.
Oh, yes, ma'am. There were several of them. There were a number of them throughout the South. And the thing about these institutions was classical education. There was a tennis court. There was a chemistry lab. There were instructions in both academic subjects and in, what do you call this? Okay, the term is leaving me now. Is it industrials? Trades, sewing.
Right.
It had all of that. It had all
So it
of
was
that.
all the intellectual and the whatever. I think of Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois.
It was that.
It
was that.
Right.
And it was the pride of this little community. Because, okay, I'll give you this example. My Aunt Margaret came with everything she owned in a shoebox. She had come from a farming community. She'd come off a farm. And everything she owned was in this shoebox. My mother's family were they were entrepreneurs. Her grandfather owned the blacksmith shop, the funeral parlor, and the barber shop.
They did well.
You know, these are lucrative things, you know.
Sure.
And it was a small community in which people interacted with each other and watched over each other, you know, attended church together. I read my grandmother's diary, my mother's diary, when she was talking about the birth of her children. This is so close to African tradition. With her first child, the women came, and for a month she could not get out of bed. The women came and they washed the floors, they washed the clothes, they prepared the food. It's a very African tradition.
Yes.
Without even articulating it as that was happening in the early 1920s in Chester, South Carolina.
Isn't that something?
You see? Now today you'd be happy if somebody came and said hello. But you know, we've gotten very busy with other things. But it was that kind of community in which she grew. Her mother passed when she was 9 years old.
Oh.
Her mother was a graduate of Hampton, what was Hampton Institute at the time. And she was an excellent seamstress. She could look at a garment and draft a pattern. These were, you know, her father, who had a mathematical mind, was at Johnson C. Smith, but he dropped out to take over the blacksmith shop. And then he went and got my grandmother, went to Virginia and got her and brought her back to South Carolina and married her. Yeah, because they'd been like that since they were young kids playing over the fence, you know.
Oh.
It was that kind. Yeah, that was good. But when my grandmother passed, my mother was 9 years old. And my mother sat at the funeral, she said, listening to the adults talk. And she decided none of them was smart enough to tell her what to do. 9 years old, she would chart her own course. She describes herself as a little girl as sitting on the swing and that big tree in the front yard. This was a big tree. Sitting on the swing, looking up at the sky, going as high as she could, and thinking big thoughts and dreaming big dreams. She learned to play the piano. There was, you know, back in those days, you had these teachers who The lady didn't just teach her to play notes. She taught her the difference between a wrist tone and an elbow tone, to strike the keys. That was that.
Subtlety. I love that.
She really could have been a concert pianist because she played on that level. I have memories of my mother playing Rhapsody in Blue when I was a little girl. Oh, she was really quite something. Beautiful, creative. She could sew too and create things for herself. Oh my goodness.
So Phylicia, my mother made all of our clothes when we
See
were
that?
little with the seams, the finished seams, like, couture designer.
Yes.
She played the piano. and wait, my mother sang on the choir. She had a perfect pitch soprano voice. She sang on the choir from age 8 to age 88.
Whoa.
She was on that choir. And the week
Whoa.
of her passing, she was singing with my sister to Frank Sinatra and Nat King Cole, because those are her favorites. I mean, come on now.
You see? Okay, you see? So
Yeah.
so here we come in this generation, and we're all about career, right? Well, but we haven't lost those things because they imparted that to
Oh,
us.
yes. Oh, yes.
But they
And we
wanted
have to
us.
make sure that we keep those roots alive. And that, yeah, we so do. So Phylicia, this is really funny, but it's so a lot, as I mentioned at the beginning, many people know you first as Claire Huxtable.
Yeah.
And I remember when that iconic show came on TV, and there were some people, including some Black people, who said, there aren't Black people like that. There are no Black people who are doctors and lawyers. What are you talking about? And I had grown up in a neighborhood. My father was a lawyer. My father was a judge. The people on either side of us were doctors. Like this, there have been these people doing every role forever.
Ever.
But the media will tell you a different story. Even today, the media is telling a different story. The notion of who we are has been massaged and squashed and this and that for so long, but that show revealed a different world. Now, then there became a different world, that show, but it shared something, the life you grew up in.
Yeah.
As well as me. It's not like it was a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It was part of reality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, especially as you just described from your mother's time in that small community that she grew up in, that nurtured great minds and great beings. What can we do today? That's really what I want. What can we do today to make sure that our young people understand from where they come? And it's not just those worlds, it's all kinds of, we are such a dynamic people, but many times folks do not know.
So you talked about the stories that the media tells, and what about the stories we tell ourselves?
There you go. Even more important.
What about the stories we tell ourselves? And how about getting past tribalism? How about that? How about moving into the meaning of the lyrics? This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. What is that light? Where is that light? Who gave us that light? What does it mean to live in that light and to let that light shine? Everywhere I go, all through the night, I'm going to let it shine. What does that mean? There are some songs children need to learn to sing, and that is one of them.
Amen to that. And that's for all of us.
All the children. Everywhere. Because, all you have to do is just study a little bit of physical science to know that everything in creation is connected.
Mhm.
and we are all connected, you know.
It is
I
so true.
want I want the children. You ask what we do. I want the children to know about this light.
Yeah.
I want you to not only know about this light, I want you to know about this light. This is what I want. It disturbs me greatly when I hear young students speaking in with limited understanding of their being.
Mm.
That's all some kind of philosophical, political rant kind of thing that has nothing to do with the light.
Yeah.
And
I
I,
have to I have to share something with you. So for those of you who can see this, this is the program for my mother.
yes.
And what does it say? Our bright light.
Now look at that face. Look at her eyes. Look at that. Look at the light emanating.
Emanating.
And that's
Emanating.
internal. That's real.
Oh, that was, I mean, everyone who met my mother said that
Mm-hmm.
when she walked in the room, this
Mm-hmm.
energy of light filled the room
Mm-hmm.
with it
Mm-hmm.
every single time. She didn't have to
Mm-hmm.
say anything. It's what happened. And I want to tell you that she has one great granddaughter who is
Mm-hmm.
4.5, and her name is Harper Grace. And she said yesterday to a friend who came to visit, you know, Mama died, and now she is a star. And she's also the sun. And I can see her when I look in the sky. 4.5.
Okay, we need to follow her. Yeah, we need to follow her because that's real understanding.
Real understanding.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that something? That is such a beautiful insight. And, you know, she's processing just like all of us. She visited my mother days before she passed. She was there, you know, everyone was there, and she was there too. And so she saw. And when her parents told her a few days after my mother passed, they told her. And she said, I know. I know.
We need to follow her.
You know, I,
When they say the little
I
children should
got
be
it. I got it.
follow the
Hey, y'all.
children.
This is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking with my dear friend, Phylicia Rashad. We are talking about all kinds of things: love, light,
Mhm.
you know, living with that understanding that God is within us. That is such a powerful understanding. And the little ones feel it. If we're paying attention, we feel it. And, you know, one of the things that I do on a different broadcast, Dream Leapers Inspiration, we just finished doing a meditation. We often do meditations together as we are thinking about, you know, how to fill our spirits so that we can move out and stay connected and grounded. And I know you meditate as well, Phylicia, and you know, being connected, staying connected to your soul,
Mhm.
staying, giving yourself space to be quiet so that you can even know what in the world is going on, especially as we are busy, is so important.
Mhm.
And you are busy. I am busy. I've
Mhm.
talked to people who say, I just don't have time.
Mhm.
I don't have time to, it's a luxury to meditate. It's a luxury to be still. Can you talk about your understanding of the importance of that inner spiritual work and making time for it?
Yes, yes. Well, I would say for those who think it's a luxury, mm, take another look. It's more than a luxury. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. And yes, we do get busy. And yes, sometimes, depending on how long you were up at night and what time you got to get up in the morning, you know what I mean? That you might hit those crosshairs, but it's not This is not arbitrary. This is not a negotiation. This is something I need. And I know that I need this. I and I'm not, and as time has passed, I'll say this. It isn't just what I get. It's so much more than what I get. It's what I'm giving, or what I should say, what I'm offering to make that space and that time, or to carve that out in the midst of a busy day, to take 5 minutes to just step aside and, it's offering. It's an offering. It isn't just what you're doing, getting for yourself. It's a real offering, because it's creating and contributing to a level of vibration that affects everything and everybody around you. Yeah. And it does have its effect. It does. Well, look at the effect of what happens when you don't do it.
Exactly. And the reset, because on my broadcast, we just do like 2-3 minute meditations, really short. And then people have the experience of, wow, my energy shifted. I don't have to stay stuck in that place where I was a minute ago. I can take 3 minutes. And the power of this, that it doesn't take that long to reclaim your power, to not be undone by someone or something outside of yourself. When you realize how quickly you can come back to center, that you have the ability to do that, I think when people realize that, then they realize they have enough time.
Oh, you make the time. You got to make the time. You got to carve it. If it's like you say, 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it is, to pull aside and just,
breathe.
And it's also honoring, it's really honoring that greater presence.
Sure.
It's really taking that moment to be still in honor of this greater presence, because that's what's bringing us back to center.
Exactly. Talk about offering. There's also this notion, and my family, and I know your family too, taught us that you must live in service. That your attitude is an attitude of service. It's not about how great you are. It has to be, we were taught that you serve God and you serve others. You offer to others to help them to be great too. That we should all be great together, not I get to be great and therefore, you crowning me. Not at all. And one of the things that you and I do, I'm on the board of Prasad, and you have worked with Prasad in an advisory capacity for many, many, many years. This is a wonderful charity that serves people around the world to help them to have the best possible life. And I feel like every time I am doing something in service of this organization and these people, my heart gets fuller.
There's no question. There's no question. We heard a great being say, make yourself great by making others greater. We have heard this.
We have heard this.
We have heard this. And that's true. And it isn't just giving something to someone in a charitable way, but giving to them in a way that helps them build for themselves. That's what the Prasad Project does.
Yes.
That is so unique. And it is just, it's why it's such a successful organization and why it is honored and recognized, for its great work. Very few organizations function on this level.
Yeah. And it's not doing for people, it's doing with people. It's right. Honoring people. And for those of you who don't know, I'll just tell you very quickly, we do work in India and Mexico and in Sullivan County, New York, helping
Mhm.
people to help themselves. In New York, there's a children's dental health program that helps children to want to smile because they have a healthy mouth and healthy teeth. In hospital, there's farming, there's self-help groups for women. There are many, I think there are 41 projects in India. And in Mexico, there's restoring vision to
Mhm.
elders and children. I mean, it's incredible work. And being able to help people to help themselves to live the most dynamic life is so powerful. And it also is grounding.
Mhm.
You know, I remember, Phylicia, the first time I went to India, and a lot of times when you go, well, always when you're going to a sacred space, you take your shoes off.
Mhm.
So there was one space where we were visiting, very old, and we were mounting these steps that were stone steps, but many of them were broken. And in my bare feet, I'm walking up these stairs, and my feet, like
Hurting,
all
honey.
those pedicures, I was like, girl, I wish I hadn't had those pedicures at that point. But it made me, it was so humbling
Mhm.
because then you notice half of the people were walking without shoes on the dirt road and not complaining.
Mhm.
And whatever people's circumstances, they were walking with dignity in these beautiful saris, sometimes with baskets on their heads. It wasn't about money. It was definitely not about luxury. It was about honor and dignity and service. And
Mhm.
I came back extra grateful for every single thing that I did
Every
in my
for
life.
the light switch.
For the lights,
For the light
literally for the
switch.
light switch, for the toilet. One of the things that Prasad does is to help build people toilets. Many
Mhm.
people don't have toilets.
And this is around the world, by the way. This is not
Yeah.
just in India. You can
Yes.
find this condition. You can find this condition most any place in the world if you're going into rural areas. Because India also, is high tech.
Yes.
Yeah, they got some
They
great
have
scientists.
everything. They have everything.
Everything, everything. But in these remote areas, it's a little bit different. And we find that, well,
We have it here.
I was going to say that, in New York City, you can see some things you thought did not exist. If you happen upon a certain area, there are things happening right in New York City where people are in need of things. So what I'm saying is everywhere, and Prasad uh, addresses these specific areas through the lens of its various programs. In Sullivan County, the Children's Dental Health Program, that smile that you talk about, yes, but also that very important part of being able to go to school.
Yes.
Because absenteeism in school, I think the greatest percentage of it has to do with dental health care.
Yeah. And who knew
Dental,
that?
who
That
knew
is
that?
scary truth. People don't
Mhm.
understand that I mean, I have a friend, an elder friend, who I'm pretty sure he passed away because he had a dental problem.
Yeah.
It's children to elders. We really must take care. But part of the reason why I wanted to talk about that, Phylicia, and I'm grateful that we talked about Prasad and more broadly, service.
Hmm.
That we put blinders on in order we have these big goals, and I got to check off the box, and I
Hmm.
believe in the big goals and checking off the box.
Hmm.
But on that list, there has to be service. We cannot walk past people and not see that there are people in need and do nothing. We have to figure out how to help people.
Well, on that list, what happens if you view that list through the lens of service?
Mhm. That's right.
When I began the practice of meditation in 1980, one of the things that I heard Baba Muktananda say in a program that really, it just grabbed me right away. It actually was the first time I saw him. He said, God is the great actor of the universe. He's playing many parts, and he is the star of the show. The great actor playing many parts, and he is the star of the show. All right. So, you contemplate these words, these great words, because you know that within this, there's being offered to you something that's so far beneath the surface. And that's within your own self, your own understanding. And this understanding of service. Anything we do can become service.
Yes.
If we offer it in that way. And when I understood that about acting, it changed everything for me. When I understood service, all of a sudden, this notion of showing somebody what I could do one
Yes.
way had nothing to do with what I could do. Serving this work and offering it. When my work became an offering, it became service. Offering it to an audience. And then with this, continued inquiry came the understanding that what is it I really want to do as an actor? What is it I really want to do as an artist? What I really want to do, what I really want to do is to offer the people the experience that we're much more alike than we could ever be different. And given the opportunity, we're willing to embrace that likeness.
Which is the most beautiful thing that can happen. Phylicia, one of the main things that I do in my work is to public speaking, media training, like that, but teaching people how to step into their greatness and speak their greatness. And a lot of people come to me and say that they don't have confidence. I'm scared when I go out and speak. And I learned that same lesson that you just shared from Baba of if you come to whatever the stage is, to whatever the audience is, through the lens of service, you are no longer standing there saying, am I good enough? Do I look good enough? Am I walking in the room right? Or, whatever those things are. And the reverse is, oh no, I don't know if I'm going to be good enough. But if you're serving the audience, you're serving the moment, you're serving God. You're serving the greatness in you, then you can relax because the attitude of service changes everything. I just want to remind folks, we got 5 minutes left. This is Dream Leapers. I am so honored to be here with Phylicia Rashad, and we're going to embrace these few minutes left. Yes.
Oh, service. Yes, service. Living in the world together, seeing each other through. It's the greatest way to live. And it's not going to limit your fun. It doesn't mean that you shut down. It doesn't mean any of those things. You actually become free. When I went to the first the camp that I attended, I would say, the first time I attended an camp in India, I took my daughter, Condola Philia, with me. And at the time, I think she was 5 years old.
Wow.
And the first thing that we did was there were so many people who had come for screening. So many people. The lines were so long and it was hot, So we were offering water to people who were standing in the lines. We're literally going down the lines, offering water to people. And she really got into that. She was loving walking down, offering the water. And she said, Mother, when I grow up, I want to live in India. I said, you do? She said, yes. She said, because in India, I am free.
Oh.
And I looked at her and I saw that act of offering water to people she didn't intellectualize it. She didn't go through a whole thing. It was freeing.
Mm, that's
It
beautiful.
was that's freedom, to her, a 5-year-old child. And I thought,
And by the way, Phylicia, 5 years old, that time,
mm,
4, 5, and 6. I've looked at a lot of children at
mm,
that age, and they are free.
yeah, they're free.
They are empowered. That's that point when they're first having agency. And
Hmm.
if they are being loved in a way that helps to support that freedom, it's an amazing thing to see. And very often they lose it because then the ego comes in and all kinds of things happen, and they spend the rest of their life trying to get it back. But
Yeah.
but when you see it through a spiritual lens and you can help to nurture that, look at what they become. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I know your daughter, Condola, and I see, what she has become. And, for those of us who are parents and for those of us who are loving the children who are part of our world, that is the best service, to take care of the next generation and to make sure that they feel that love.
Yes. 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 Was it Frederick Douglass? It's easier to raise a whole human being than it is to mend a broken man.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we can do that. I often think about what would happen if we people, human beings, especially adults, looked at rearing children with the understanding that everything we say and do creates a memory.
mm,
I mean, we're busy. We don't think like that. But if we could pull ourselves back for just a moment and remember that everything we say and do creates a memory, how might we live?
mm.
How might we speak to them and speak to one another in their presence and even their absence? What might we do if we thought about our impact on a human spirit? And it doesn't require a college degree or a 6-figure bank account to do this. That's not the requirement. It's awareness, that's all.
Awareness.
And a pure intention.
Phylicia, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for all of your great work. Thank you for sharing your family with us. Thank you for sharing your love with us and with me. I so appreciate you, and blessings to your mother
Thank
and
you.
to all the greatness that you carry with every breath. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Harriette. Thank you for being you. Thank you.
And thank you to all of you for tuning in. I hope you had as much fun and just joy and peace as I did. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.